We begin right here in the United States. President Joe Biden is considering negotiating directly with Hamas for the release of American hostages still being held captive in Gaza. Now, according to a report citing at least 4 U.S. officials, the negotiations would be held via Qatari mediators and would not involve Israel. Now, while the White House has declined to comment, the report cited the Biden administration officials are unsure of what Washington would exactly give to Hamas in exchange. There are at least 5 American hostages that are still being held captive by Hamas in Gaza. And following the report, the parents of a young Israeli American hostage called for the release of their child.
You hear rumors today that the United States is negotiating something or might. I would not be surprised if either at the same time or soon thereafter we hear about Germany and Argentina and so many of the other countries whose citizens are also being held. Whatever it takes to get everybody home, we support.
Now, upon learning of this new development, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the possibility of unilateral negotiations. Netanyahu is already under intense pressure from family members of hostages to secure a deal. In fact, earlier this week, Israeli officials estimated that nearly 120 hostages continue to remain in captivity out of at least 43 that may have already died.
We have called on all countries to put as much pressure on Hamas as they possibly can to release the hostages, whether they have citizens, dual Israeli citizens, or their citizens in Hamas captivity. We're calling on all countries to do whatever they can to get hostages out.
Now, on Monday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken shuttled between Egypt and Israel, pushing for a truce in Gaza. Secretary of State Blinken first met Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi before flying to Israel to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. On his 8th trip to the Middle East since the onset of the war, Secretary Blinken called on countries in the region to pressure Hamas to approve the ceasefire draft outlined by President Biden.
My message to governments throughout the region, to people throughout the region is, if you want a ceasefire, press Hamas to say yes. If you want to alleviate the terrible suffering of Palestinians in Gaza, press Hamas to say yes. If you want to get all the hostages home, press Hamas to say yes.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council also backed the ceasefire plan proposed by President Biden. At least 14 Security Council members voted in favor, while Russia abstained. The resolution put forward by President Biden made headway until Netanyahu refused to halt military activity in Gaza, forcing the Biden administration to rethink its strategy by directly talking to Hamas. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison LaGrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.